So this happened back in the summer of 2006. I was 19 and working as an overnight security guard at this massive old warehouse in a small town called Eastbridge, Ohio. It used to be a furniture distribution center, but by the time I got the job, it had been turned into a kind of shared storage facility for different companies, mostly electronics and medical equipment. Expensive stuff. They needed people watching the place all night just in case. There were always two of us working, one inside, walking the floor, and one outside in the parking lot in a patrol car. Everyone preferred the car job, obviously. Sit on your butt, sip some coffee, listen to the radio. Easy night. But that night I pulled the short straw. I was the guy stuck inside. The building was huge. I'm not even exaggerating. Imagine a Walmart, but double the size with endless rows of shelves and boxes stacked way over your head. It had this weird smell. Old wood, dust, something sour you couldn't quite place. The kind of smell that sticks to your clothes. I started my shift around midnight. As usual, I did a slow walk through all the aisles to make sure everything was in order. I had this little flashlight that barely cut through the darkness. Most of the overhead lights were off to save power, except for a few emergency ones that buzzed faintly and flickered now and then. The whole place felt abandoned, even though technically it wasn't. Now, here's where things started getting off. About 30 minutes in, I was walking down aisle 9 when I saw something strange at the far end. It looked like a white shape, round, kind of like someone's head just peeking out from behind a stack of boxes. At first I figured it was just a reflection or something catching the light weird. But the longer I stared at it, the more I realized it was definitely something solid, something there. So I picked up my pace trying to get a better look. And right when I got about halfway down the aisle, whatever it was vanished, just ducked back behind the boxes like it was hiding from me. I stopped cold. My first thought was maybe it was the other guard, Marcus, playing a prank. He liked to screw with people. But I pulled out my radio and called him. "Hey Marcus, you inside?" He came back immediately. "Nah man, I'm still out back by the loading dock." "Why?" I told him I thought I saw someone in the warehouse. He said he'd come in and help me look. I didn't wait for him. I took a deep breath and hurried down the aisle, turning my flashlight toward where I'd seen the shape. But when I got there, nothing. Just more shelves, more boxes. Still, I had this prickly feeling on the back of my neck like I was being watched. Then from the other end of the building, I heard it. A slow dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. And then soft footsteps, not fast, not loud, just careful. I turned and saw it again. A pale face. Not a regular face. It was too white, too still. It was sticking out just slightly from behind a crate down near aisle 14. And then, slowly, it moved back out of sight. Not like someone ducking away either. It was smoother, slower, almost like it floated. That's when my brain caught up with my gut and I realized this wasn't right. This wasn't someone playing around. This was something else. Marcus radioed again, said he was at the entrance and coming in. I told him where I was, but I didn't wait. I started toward the area where I saw the face. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would I do that? Why go toward the creepy thing? Because that's the job, I guess. And because some stupid part of me still thought it might be a squatter or some prank. As I walked, the air started to feel thick. Like the kind of air you get in basements or attics, stale and heavy. And then the smell hit me. It was bad, rotten, wet meat, like something had been dead a long time and was just sitting there festering. I covered my nose with my sleeve and followed the stink. It led me to this big wooden crate that looked different from the others. Older, scratched up, and the smell. Man, it was pouring out of that thing like a fog. I don't know why I did it, but I grabbed the lid and opened it. Inside was a body. A real one. Lying in a pool of dark, almost black blood, and it didn't have a head. I staggered back, nearly dropped the flashlight. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the radio. I yelled for Marcus, told him to call the cops immediately. Then I ran. Full sprint. I didn't care about protocol or the job or anything else. I just wanted out. I barely made it to the back door before I started throwing up. When Marcus found me, I was sitting on the ground outside trying to breathe. He was still on the phone with the dispatcher. I grabbed the phone and told them what I saw, every awful detail. Within 10 minutes, there were sirens. Lots of them. Police cars, an ambulance, even the county sheriff. They taped off the whole area and swarmed the building. I had to walk them through what I saw, which wasn't easy. I kept feeling like that face was still watching me from the dark. But the creepiest part? The part that still messes with me. Later that night, the cops asked to check the security footage. There were only 2 cameras, one in the northeast corner, the other in the southwest. Basic stuff. We rewound the feed, but during the time I saw the face, the footage just cuts out. Gone. A solid 3 hours of black screen. No sound, no explanation. The system didn't crash. Nothing was unplugged, it just stopped recording. They never figured out how the guy got in or who he was. No ID on the body, no fingerprints, nothing. It's like he was dumped there and no one ever found the head. I've had time to think about it since then. A lot of time. And sometimes late at night when my brain won't shut up, a thought creeps in, something I don't like admitting. What if what I saw wasn't someone's face at all? What if it was the missing head? What if the killer was still there watching me, holding it? The way that thing moved, the way it stared, it didn't feel human, and sometimes when I close my eyes I can still see it. Pale, still, eyes wide open, waiting. Let me tell you about something that happened to me a few years ago. It still gives me chills just thinking about it. It wasn't some silly prank or ghost story, this was real. Me and 2 of my cousins, Sam and Jordan, went somewhere we never should have gone, and we saw things we can't unsee. It all started back in the summer of 2016. I was 17, bored out of my mind, and dying for something to break up the usual routine. My cousins Sam and Jordan were staying with us for a couple weeks, and we were always looking for something to do at night. Just dumb teenager stuff, you know? Driving around, hanging out in parking lots, maybe sneaking into the pool at the neighborhood clubhouse if we felt especially daring. One night, we were sitting in the Taco Bell parking lot around 10:30 p.m., finishing off some burritos when Sam brought up something he'd heard from a guy at work. There was this old abandoned building on the edge of a nearby industrial park. Used to be a discount furniture store, supposedly. But people around town said weird things happened there. Stuff like strange noises, satanic graffiti, and people disappearing. Yeah, I know, classic urban legend. But when you're 17 and bored, that kind of story sounds like an invitation. The building was only a few miles away, in a mostly empty stretch of road just outside of Crestwood, the town where I live. By day it didn't look like much, just a huge, beat-up concrete shell surrounded by overgrown weeds and cracked pavement. But at night, it had a different energy, one that made your skin prickle. So, of course, we decided to go check it out. We parked at a CVS about half a block away and started walking through a narrow alley lined with chain-link fences and trash bins. The streetlights barely lit the road, and the air smelled faintly like something burnt mixed with rotting leaves. It was quiet. Too quiet. When the building finally came into view, it looked like it had been rotting for decades. The front doors were completely boarded up with mismatched slabs of plywood, and the outer walls were covered in layers of ivy, vines, and grime. The place looked like nature was trying to eat it whole. That's when Jordan, who had been cracking jokes the whole time, suddenly stopped. "You guys go on," he said, fidgeting with his phone. "I'll hang back here and keep lookout." Sam and I exchanged a look. Truth was, we were nervous too, but we were already there and neither of us wanted to back out now. We headed around to the back of the building, crunching through broken glass and dry leaves. According to Sam's friend, there was a hole in the back wall where the concrete had crumbled. He wasn't wrong. Behind a line of rusted dumpsters and tangled brush, we found a jagged gap about the size of a small doorway. It looked like someone had driven into it years ago and no one ever bothered fixing it. We took a breath and slipped inside. The darkness hit like a wall. Even with the flashlights on our phones, we could barely see 5 feet ahead. Dust particles floated through the air, catching the light like tiny ghosts. Every step crunched or echoed or both. The room we entered was massive, maybe a warehouse showroom or storage area. The air was cold and damp and everything smelled like mildew and rust. Piles of broken wood, shattered glass, and random furniture pieces were scattered across the cracked concrete floor. We didn't say much. We just kept walking, sweeping our lights along the walls. The graffiti was the first thing that made my stomach turn. At first, it was the usual stuff: tags, swear words, dumb drawings. But as we went deeper into the building, it changed. The words got darker. One wall had "Kill Yourself" sprayed in giant red letters. Another had a crudely drawn figure with its mouth sewn shut and black tears pouring from its eyes. Then came the symbols. Upside-down crosses, pentagrams, 666, and things I didn't even recognize. They were everywhere, on the walls, the floor, even scratched into the remains of a cabinet that had been smashed to bits. It felt like we were being watched. At the far end of the room, a half-collapsed staircase led to what used to be a second floor or maybe an office section. As we moved our lights across the steps, Sam stopped dead in his tracks. "Dude, what is that?" On the steps, smeared across 4 or 5 of them, was a dark, dried stain. At first I thought it was paint, but the color, it was too brown, too thick. Blood. Old blood. Lots of it. Neither of us wanted to go any further. We turned back toward the other end of the room, trying not to look too closely at anything else. That's when we saw it. Hanging from the ceiling, maybe 12 feet up, was a thick rope tied into a noose. It swayed gently, though there was no breeze. The beam it hung from groaned faintly, as if remembering something awful. I felt sick. We were about to head back out when I noticed something else through a cracked window at the back of the building. There was another structure, a smaller warehouse maybe 30 yards behind the main one. It looked even worse. The roof was sagging in the middle, and the siding was peeling off like sunburned skin. "Should we?" Sam asked. I didn't answer. I just started walking toward it. There was a small room near the front, looked like it had once been an office. The weird thing was, it had no door, just one window, and through it we saw a huge wooden cross hanging upside down from the ceiling, half rotted and covered in what looked like wax drippings. Melted candles sat in the corners, some still with wicks. We kept going. Inside the warehouse was a single huge room, but it felt smaller because of the piles of junk everywhere. Broken crates, shattered mirrors, burned pieces of carpeting, and graffiti. So much graffiti, it crawled up the walls like veins, twisting in every direction, covered in bizarre symbols and violent imagery. But the creepiest thing? Along the bottom edges of the walls were these narrow holes, dozens of them. Each about a foot wide, maybe 3 feet tall, like vents or crawl spaces, but way too deep and pitch black inside. Sam crouched next to one and shined his flashlight down it. "I can't see the bottom," he whispered. Something moved inside, not fast, just shifted, a scraping sound, soft but clear, like fingernails on cement. We backed up, fast. That's when Sam's phone buzzed. It was a call from Jordan. He answered with a nervous laugh. "Yo, you still out there?" His face changed in an instant. Whatever Jordan was saying, it wasn't good. He looked at me with wide eyes and mouthed, "We gotta go, now." I didn't ask questions. We turned to leave just as the air outside lit up. Headlights. A white pickup truck came barreling around the back of the building fast. Too fast. We ducked behind a stack of wooden pallets and ran for the edge of the building, cutting back toward the main warehouse. Another set of headlights flashed, this time from the opposite direction. A second vehicle, black pickup, parked, waiting. We didn't stop. We sprinted across the lot, jumping over broken boards and glass, not even caring what we stepped on. My lungs burned. My heart felt like it was going to crack open. Back when I was 27, I used to work as a party planner in Los Angeles. I know, it sounds like a dream job, right? Loud music, wild crowds, VIP tables, free drinks, and all that. I worked with this small crew throwing weekend parties for independent music artists. Kind of like underground concerts mixed with club vibes. The gigs were usually hosted in random venues we'd rent out. Warehouses, old theaters, even abandoned storefronts sometimes. The cooler and grungier the location, the better. My main job was to find the place, lock in the date, get it ready, and make sure the event popped off without any disasters. Some weekends we'd pull in serious cash even after splitting with the venue owners. We usually didn't pay up front. The property owners would just take a percentage of what we made at the door and bar. So, there was this one weekend in early October 2019, a Friday the 4th. I remember because it was the same night as one of those massive West Coast blackouts, where we booked this big, beat-up warehouse in East LA. It was perfect. Empty parking lot, huge floor space, a gritty industrial vibe with graffiti on the walls that honestly looked cool in photos. The owner was a guy named Benji. He seemed chill. Said we could use the place Friday and Saturday night. I went there early that Wednesday with my friend Lucas, who handled setup with me. We drove this giant rented U-Haul packed with everything: folding tables, makeshift bar counters, lights, DJ equipment, the works. It was a full day of lifting and sweating, trying to turn this cold, empty shell into a club. While Lucas started unloading the gear, I walked around to scope out the layout and figure out where to put power. That's when I noticed half the lights weren't turning on, like a whole side of the warehouse was just dead. No outlets working, no overheads. We needed power on that side for the DJ booth and lighting. I went searching for the breaker box or electrical panel. Nothing obvious. I walked along the grimy walls, pushing open doors, checking behind tarps and boards. Still nothing. So I called Benji. He picked up fast. "Ah, yeah," he said, like he already knew what I was going to ask. "The panel's through the door under the exit sign in the back. The light on it doesn't work, but the door should be unlocked." "Cool." I went over there, found the exit sign. Sure enough, it wasn't glowing. The door was rusty and stuck a little, but it opened with a hard shove. Behind it was this narrow hallway, not even 4 feet wide. It felt weird going in. Claustrophobic. The walls were concrete, stained and cracked like they hadn't been touched in years. There was another door on one side, maybe leading outside. Opposite that was a short, creaky metal staircase going down. Benji had said, "Just head down, make a left, and you'll find the panel on your right wall. Flip the bottom 3 switches." So I did. I ducked a bit going down the stairs, and I'm 6'2", and the ceiling was low with spider webs dangling here and there. The air felt colder too, not just temperature-wise, but off. You know how some basements just have that bad feeling? Like the walls are watching you? This was one of those places. There was barely any light. Just these small dim bulbs hanging from wires along the ceiling, flickering like they were ready to give up. I found the panel. It was mounted crooked on the wall, covered in dust. I brushed it off, opened it, flipped the 3 switches like Benji said, and the lights above buzzed loudly as they came to life. Then I heard something else. A buzzing. But this wasn't from the panel. It was deeper, more rhythmic. On off, like a busted fire alarm having a seizure, and it was coming from a door just around the corner. Curious and kinda annoyed, I walked over. The door was heavy, steel, and scraped the ground loudly when I forced it open. It was pitch black inside. The buzzing got louder the moment I opened it, and in the far corner of the room there was a red light flashing. It was tucked near the ceiling, blinking in perfect sync with the buzz. Every time it lit up, I could barely make out the shape of the room. Old chairs, broken crates, what looked like water stains on the floor. I stepped in slowly. As I moved, the red light buzzed again. And again. When I stopped, the buzzing stopped too. I took a step back, buzz. Step forward. Buzz. It took me a second to realize. Motion sensor, I muttered out loud. Still, something about it felt wrong. I backed up to the doorway, just standing there, watching. The light turned off. Then buzz and it came on again, but I hadn't moved. I stood completely still, heart pounding, staring into the room. That's when I saw something shift in the far corner. There was someone. Sitting. Hunched. At first, I couldn't see them clearly, just a shape behind a stack of boxes. But when the red light flashed again, I saw more. Long, messy hair hanging in front of their face. Bare arms, bare feet. Pale skin like chalk, and the eyes, oh God, the eyes. Wide open, too wide. No blinking. Just staring straight at me. And the mouth, it was smiling. Not a happy smile. A wrong smile, crooked. Twitching at the corners, I couldn't breathe. The red light flickered again, and this time they moved. Their arm slowly lifted. Their hand opened, and they waved, but not like hello. No, it was slow, repetitive, beckoning, like they were inviting me in. I slammed the door shut so hard I heard something fall inside the room. I ran, full-on sprinted, up the stairs, back through the hall and into the main warehouse where Lucas was setting up lights. I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost. Dude? What happened? He asked. We're leaving, I said. Now. He laughed at first, thought I was joking. But I wasn't. I was already calling Benji. I told him there was someone in the basement, some freak hiding in a dark room, messing with the motion sensors. Benji didn't even sound surprised. Oh yeah, that room. The sensors down there are kind of messed up, he said calmly. That's not what I asked, I snapped. There's someone in there, sitting behind boxes, watching me. He paused for a moment, then said, weird. I don't really go down there much. That was it. Not I'll check it out, not call the cops, just weird. I hung up and told Lucas we were done. No more questions.